Happy Monday and welcome to episode 86 of the Think on These Things podcast. My name is Kairu and I am your host. And today's episode is going to be brief, but there are three specific things I want to touch on during this episode that you can sort of build expectation around. I want to talk about manifestos. The first thing that I want to talk about is manifestos because last month, I finished writing the Discipleship Manifesto, and 2 episodes ago, we took a deeper, an expository look at the Sainthood Manifesto. So I feel a nagging sense of responsibility to sort of at least touch on the common connotation of manifestos and really the core sort of purpose or objective of a manifesto. So we're going to do that today. I'm also going to talk about a response to death, not in a general sense, a little bit in a general sense. I'm sure I'll talk about some principles, but it's been, several days since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and there has been so much conversation around this from every angle, from every side, and millions upon millions of people have felt the impact of this death, whether it is something that they are mourning, something that they are celebrating, or something that they're unsure about. And I think that that is something that deserves some consideration and some space for understanding. So I want to move on from that, and I want to talk about the power of friendship before we leave today's episode. So that's what you can expect. Before we get started, if you can do me a favor, go ahead, like this video, subscribe to the podcast, to my channel on YouTube, wherever you're watching this, download it, share it with a friend, leave a comment, whether you love it or hate it. I think that will be really good for all of us. And let's get started.
Yellow lamp chasing every sunrise. Look at your soul, I'm in love with your light. Yellow lamp chasing every sunrise. Look at your soul, I'm in love with your light.
Okay, so today we are talking about manifestos. We're talking about the response to death. We're talking about the power of friendship. But before we dive into that, I want to take a look, just to sort of place this front and center. I want to take a look at the book of positive affirmations, because in this show, we go day by day through the book to consider what the affirmation has to offer us and what its utility is. The affirmation for today is from the 3rd chapter of the book, day 3, and it reads as follows: personal growth is a sign of strength. Personal growth is a sign of strength. Personal growth is a sign of strength. I read that affirmation this morning and I thought about the situations that we're facing today. The great unifier in terms of the situation that we're facing would be the assassination of Charlie Kirk. In light of this recent event, there have been so many statements that have been made, a lot of false claims, a lot of true claims, a lot of questionable claims. But I think what I have noticed most glaringly is that there is an overwhelming treasure trove of truths about what the man stood for, about what his stated purpose was, what his end goal was, what he wanted to be remembered for. And there is also, on the other hand, an overwhelming effort to delegitimize all of those things. There is an overwhelming effort to represent, or rather misrepresent, things that he's said or things that he's done. There has been a lot of commentary about him being wicked or evil, or having made certain claims, or having carried out certain misdeeds. And I have not seen any evidence that supports these claims. And it makes me think, about how years go by, sometimes decades, and probably sometimes centuries. In fact, we know, we can read through history that sometimes a lot of time will pass and people they'll still cling to the same concepts that cause them to be weak and stupid. Okay? Follow along just for a moment here. I was on I was on the phone. I'm not on the phone with this person. I don't have their number. I was on Twitter this morning, and I saw that a journalist was. I guess I'm a little out of order here. I was going to first talk about manifestos. We'll get back to that in a second, but I think this ties into it. I saw a journalist who was recently released from her job, and the reason that she was released was because she misquoted Charlie Kirk in an attempt to paint him as a vile, vapid racist. I want to be really clear that the claim that someone is a racist or the claim that someone is against a group of people is a very serious claim. And if you are making that, especially if you are making that in an effort to change the hearts and minds of other people about this person, there is a level of responsibility that you have to provide evidence. Evidence. Unfortunately, for this woman, the quote that she posted, and she'll say that she was very thoughtful in what she posted, very measured in what she posted. It was a misquote. There is a video that is attached to the statement that she is purporting Charlie Kirk to have made. And it doesn't say what she says it said. There are some pieces that are brought together, and then there are some things that he didn't say that she included in her quote. These are important things. I'm not going to get too deep into the semantics of it because this isn't a political podcast. This is a podcast about clarity and confidence. The reason that I'm discussing this is because it is an important demonstration of what confusion and doubt will do. You need to be able to understand what confusion and doubt is and how it works in order to ensure that it is excluded in the makings of a better you, in the makings of a brighter future, in the makings of a more unified community that is righteous, that is glorious, that is good. We cannot continue to build campaigns and rallies on the heels of anger. Every effort that is built on anger will crash and burn. It will die. It is weak from the start and incapable of accomplishing that which it sets out to accomplish. Every movement built on anger will fail. So why then, and that goes even if you're trying to fight for the right thing. Even if you're trying to fight for the right thing, a lot of people tried to fight for the right thing even in the last 5 years, and because their movement was built on a foundation of anger, it was not on solid ground. It was on sinking sand. So this woman who is going to get a lot of likes is out of a job because she lied. I'm not celebrating the fact that her job was terminated. I do think that there needs to be a very specific and rigorous course of remedial action for educators who took to social media in the last several days and celebrated the assassination of a private American citizen, a public figure, but a private American citizen who engaged and promoted civil discourse, fervent, emphatic, enthused delivery of debate, civil discourse. When he was taken from this life, he was engaging in civil discourse. You might not have liked his opinions. You might not have liked what he had to say. But you don't grow without exposure to diverse elements and perspectives. You stay the same. You remain weak, underdeveloped, and ready to die. Those who desire growth will not try and silence those who do not. The level of anger and vitriol that drives people to disrespect everyone that they've been told to disagree with is alarming and stands in the way of human progress. It stands in the way of a world where we are more united, where we all have more access to opportunity, where we all have opportunities to become the best versions of ourselves. The man was very clear that the first and last priority of his was to represent Jesus. Whether or not you believe he did that, that is up for debate. Whether or not you believe he did that is up for debate. Whether or not he was a Christian is not for you to say. It's not for you to say. If you believe the God of the Bible, you know better. The Bible is exceedingly clear that there is now no condemnation for anyone who is a believer. We are all sinners. We have all fallen short of the glory of God. We are all in need of life-saving grace. Every last one of us. So for anyone to get up, and I'm speaking specifically about preachers now who got up yesterday and got into their pulpits and felt that it was appropriate to double down on the most evil statements that you can make about a person. I'm not celebrating that it happened, but it was deserved. Not only do you sound stupid, but in a more just world, your credentials would be suspended until you underwent a scrutinous process whereby your statements would be tested for their trustworthiness. You lead people astray when you don't preach the word of God. This is different than going into a political platform. Policies change. Positions change. Platforms evolve. But a word that has stood the test of time, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That doesn't come out of nowhere. So I want to say this, that the man was very clear about his goal and his purpose. And if you disagree with his goal or his purpose, he invited you to come and engage in civil discourse to the best of your ability and prove him wrong. That leads perfectly into the concept of a manifesto, because when I was writing the Discipleship Manifesto, it didn't occur to me until I was finishing the last parts of it. And I'll talk more about the manifesto in the coming episodes, but there is a negative connotation that exists when you think about manifestos. I finished writing it and I thought, I mean, it was so natural that it came to me that it would be called the Discipleship Manifesto, that I was sort of shocked when I was finishing the process of writing it, and I thought to myself, wait a second. And it wasn't just a thought that came out of nowhere. It was the person, Robin, who went and shot a bunch of people at a church. Children died, people were maimed, and their lives have been irreversibly marked by this event. The person who committed this violent crime wrote a manifesto. A really, really long manifesto where they pontificated on whether or not they would carry out this act, how they would carry out this act, where they would carry out this act, why they would carry out this act. The shooter in Buffalo, who took lives from people that I met personally, he wrote a manifesto. The man who came, what's that man's name? Frank. He came, drove from Pennsylvania to New York City, shot people up on the train. Manifesto. What I realized when this mass shooting took place was that this word has a bad rap. So I wanted to take a moment to just clarify what a manifesto is. A manifesto, and I wrote this on a blog recently, that a manifesto is a public statement of beliefs and goals, often paired with a clear call to action. It serves as a foundational document for a movement, a political party, or an artistic group articulating their vision and rallying support. So, while it is most often discussed in an unfortunate series of events, a manifesto is simply a clearly stated set of goals with a call to action, a rallying cry. The rallying cry of the Discipleship Manifesto is to call people to action in discipleship unto Christ. If you are a believer, if you are a follower, if you are a disciple of Christ, your greatest mission in this life is to go and help others embark on and remain on the journey of discipleship. Very simple. It's super simple. It's like so simple, it's hard to understand why a person would paint it out to be something that it's not. For thousands of years, people have had differing views and perspectives and methods about the gospel of Jesus Christ. That has not changed for thousands of years. But you know what else hasn't changed? What he actually said. What he actually did. Efforts to restructure his message, his methods, and his mission do not change the reality of his message, his methods, or his mission. In the same way, efforts to restructure the message, the methods, and the mission of the late Charlie Kirk do not change the message, the methods, or the mission that that man lived while he was here with us. And doesn't matter if you are on Twitter, if you are at the schoolhouse, if you are in the jailhouse, if you are in the pulpit, a lie is still a lie. And God will be the final judge. And when you lead people astray, you lead them into darkness. You lead them into death, destruction, decay. You lead them into turmoil that they will not be equipped to overcome. That is why clarity and confidence are so important. That is why this podcast exists. I used to use this show to talk about things from my past, but I'm so grateful that today I've decided to talk about what's happening today. I think both serve a purpose, both are useful. I am really, really, really moved by all of the messages that I have encountered that share even greater context about who this man was and what he did while he was yet still with us. Whether you were white, black, gay, straight, or anything in between, this man sat down and had civil discourse, reached across the aisle, and showed respect to everyone he met. For as far as I know, that is who he was. For as much as I know, that is who he was. For as much as I have seen and heard, that is who he was. And every statement that has been made to paint him in another light is lacking proof that it is true. How you respond to what happened last Wednesday will say more about you than it says about him. His life is documented. That's the importance of being documented, going on the record, knowing what you believe in before you go on record, knowing who you stand for. There are beliefs, there are views that he held that are very different from mine. But who he was very evident to me, very moving, very encouraging. In fact, I watched a few videos. I watched what Candace had to say about her friend who she came up in politics with and did a lot of work with Turning Point USA as he was just getting started out, and they traveled all over the country and had amazing conversations with people. Even they found that they had some disagreements, some conversations where they would not see eye to eye. But you know what? You know what they didn't do? They didn't turn on each other and call each other subhuman. They didn't decide this person, because they hold a different perspective, because simply they hold a different perspective than me, they are evil. They are unworthy of respect or consideration. Because they did not regress or devolve to that state of being, they were able to maintain a friendship. They were able to maintain a level of respect for each other that transcends their disagreements. The same level of respect that has allowed them to go into spaces where people hate them. And they show love. And they show respect. And they show consideration. There is a level of self-control that is exercised by people who have grown beyond the place where they were controlled by their emotions. That's why we have the book Emotional Intelligence, right? To help make it plain, to help make it simple. He who cannot control his own emotions has no authority in this life or the next. So what I'd love to see in the coming days, in the coming weeks, in the coming months, in the coming years is a shift in the tide where we hold ourselves responsible for knowing what it is that we believe, for speaking what we believe, for testing our ideas and our ideals in community with one another. I've said this a lot in the last week. I've said this a lot in the last month, actually, because of a research project that I'm currently working on. But new ideas must be tested. Must be tested. Must be tested. If you're not willing to have your point of view tested, get out of the booth. Get out of the ring. Hang it up. You don't have to. It's just a suggestion. You're free. You're welcome. Thank God in the United States of America to exercise your right of free speech. So people can continue to get online or to go out into the streets and lie. They have that right. They have the right to be disrespectful. It doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it useful. It doesn't make it effectual for the growth of that individual or anyone they have influence over. In fact, it's very dangerous. And if I were to begin behaving that way, I would want a friend who would reach out to me. They don't have to go online and make a mockery of it. A friend has my number. They can contact me and say, hey, friend, what's going on? What is this tone? What are these words? What does this mean? Why do you feel this way? Why do you believe this way? And we can have a civil conversation about our difference of opinion. Maybe it will lead to a middle ground. Maybe it will not. But the only way that we know is that we have a respectful dialogue about the situation. And even when we disagree, a friend is one of the most powerful things that you can ever have. I have friends with whom I disagree on a wide range of topics. But what we agree on is that we love one another, is that we value and respect and choose one another. And we support one another. I had to call someone at 3 o'clock in the morning 2 nights ago. But I needed to call someone I could trust. We don't agree on everything. We disagree on a long list of things. But our core values, the things that brought us together, are immovable. They're at the foundation of who we are. And at one point, we agreed to test some new ideas. Later on, we had some difference of opinion on those new ideas. One of us went one way and the other remained on course with the new ideas, right? So there is no love loss. There is no lack of respect when I speak of or when I speak with this person. That's the power of true friendship. If that is not what your friendship looks like, you have an endship. Until you disagree with me, I'll be your friend. That's not a friend. That's a foe. Until I can no longer leverage you to peddle whatever I currently believe, I'll be your friend. That's not a friend. That's a foe. Friendship is with you through thick and thin. Intimacy is developed through the abrasive series of conflict. And in the end, we can say, I love you. I want what's best for you. I'm here for you. I'm praying for you. I'm rooting for you. Whether we agree or disagree, we can agree to disagree. But I was very moved the other night when I was able to get on the phone with my friend. And I felt this is a beautiful example of what growth looks like. In our youth, we have a tendency to be so self-consumed that everything needs to be about me. Everything needs to be what I want right now. But over the years, as we get older and as we grow and as we experience life in different ways, we've humbled ourselves to allow a level of studiousness that we can learn and grow with each passing day, with each new experience, whether we like the experience or not. The manifesto serves as a foundation and a guide. It serves as a statement of clarity on what I believe, on what moves me to action in this life, with a hope and an expectancy for what comes after this life. It is fundamentally important to value others. It is fundamentally important to value others, even if those others are saying things that you disagree with. That's why we pray for those people who have said such gross things, that their hearts would be softened, that their hearts would be touched, that they would have an encounter that would change their lives. Yes, we, as believers, we pray for the absolute best, the ultimate, right? Not everyone will get that experience. But I do hope that at the very least, we see a change in the way that we view and speak of each other. And that we're able to have civil discourse and not escalate it to you're evil. In other words that I really don't like to bring to this show, but I've been called a lot of names just this morning for saying, hey, you know what? This statement that was actually made is inconsistent with the quote that this person posted. And people followed up with every name in the book. But when you know with absolute, I love this. When you know with clarity and confidence what it is that you believe that thing, you stand on it. You act from that place. And it gives you a level of strength that you otherwise would not know you had. I've already overstayed my time here. I hope that today is amazing and productive for you. If we're publishing this in the morning or the evening, probably the evening, because it's a little later in the morning right now. So go out, be well, and I hope that you grow and evolve ever in clarity and confidence. Love you. Peace.